A key aspect of Stoic philosophy lies in its clear distinction between what is within human control and what is not. Desire, perception, judgment, and emotional response fall within the realm of personal power, whereas external circumstances such as wealth, social status, and physical health often do not. The Stoic ideal demands mastery over one's inner world, aligning the individual will with reason, much as the universe itself is governed by divine order. This principle closely resembles the classical Greek ideal of moderation and finds echoes in Christian teachings, which emphasize self-discipline and inner virtue. Another central tenet of Stoicism is the interconnectedness of all things and the obligation of the individual to serve the greater whole. In the ancient world, civic duty was the highest political virtue, and Stoicism expanded this ideal to a universal scale, recognizing humanity as part of a vast, ordered cosmos. Interestingly, Christian teachings convey a similar message, presenting believers as members of a worldwide brotherhood transcending nationality and social status. In both perspectives, personal responsibility extends beyond the self, binding individuals to a larger moral framework. These ideas form the philosophical backdrop of Meditations, yet the work itself is not a formal exposition of Stoic doctrine. Marcus Aurelius was not an instructor seeking to convert others to his way of thinking, nor did he write for an audience. His reflections were personal exercises, a means of strengthening his character and finding solace amid the burdens of leadership. Unlike the rigid logic of early Stoics such as Zeno and Chrysippus, his Stoicism was softened by experience and tempered with humility. His writings do not seek to impose abstract theories, but instead reflect a deeply personal effort to live virtuously in an unpredictable world. A meaningful comparison can be drawn between Meditations and The Imitation of Christ, another work of profound introspection. Both emphasize self-restraint, with The Imitation urging its readers to conquer their weaknesses daily. To resist passions is the path to inner peace. The Christian tradition encourages continual self-examination, advising believers to reflect each morning on their intentions and each evening on their actions. Marcus Aurelius, too, advocated rigorous self-scrutiny, though his approach differs from the Christian emphasis on humility before God. The Stoic emperor sought self-improvement through reasoned discipline rather than through divine grace. He held himself accountable, yet without the self-abasement often found in Christian thought. While Christianity teaches a detachment from worldly pleasures for the sake of the soul, Stoicism frames detachment as a duty, an acceptance of fate, rather than a rejection of the material world. Both traditions dismiss the importance of public praise or criticism, urging instead an inner constancy. Let not your peace rest in the words of others, the Christian teaching warns. But while the Christian directs his concern toward divine judgment, the Stoic finds his measure within himself. Marcus Aurelius maintained that external slights should not trouble the soul. If someone wrongs you, it is they who are harmed, not you. The Christian ethos promotes patience and compassion, emphasizing endurance of others' failings, while Stoicism leans more toward detachment, advising that one should not be disturbed by another's faults. The Christian ideal embraces suffering as a means of spiritual refinement, whereas Stoicism focuses on overcoming suffering through reason and self-mastery. Despite their differences, both approaches recognize human existence as transient. Life on earth is a burden, declares The Imitation, viewing worldly life as fleeting and fraught with suffering. Marcus Aurelius, too, regarded existence as brief and insignificant within the grand scheme of nature. However, while Christianity offers hope beyond mortality, Stoicism finds meaning in duty and virtue within this life. A striking contrast between these works lies in their intended audience. The Imitation of Christ speaks to others, offering guidance and exhortation, while Meditations is an intensely private dialogue. There is no self-conscious confession in his writing, no performance of remorse. He is neither indulgent nor theatrical in his self-reflection, avoiding the extremes of guilt found in Confessions by Augustine or the exaggerated penitence of Bunyan. Instead, he simply notes his flaws with clarity and without malice. His goal is neither to justify nor to condemn himself, but to improve. Marcus Aurelius's philosophy was not an abstraction, but a practice. He sought to live by his own principles, striving for calm and self-restraint in all matters. He urged himself to maintain composure, to respond to hostility with dignity, and to cultivate patience toward others' failings. "The best revenge is to be unlike those who wrong you," he wrote, advocating a response to wrongdoing grounded in virtue rather than retribution. His reflections often appear in the wake of struggle, suggesting they were written as a means of restoring equilibrium after moments of frustration. His adherence to these ideals is evident in his treatment of Avidius Cassius, the general who attempted to usurp the throne. Rather than seeking vengeance, Marcus responded with clemency, remaining true to his belief that wrongdoing should be met with wisdom, not anger. To every vice, he believed, nature provided an opposing virtue. Against ingratitude, one should offer kindness. Against dishonesty, integrity. This same generosity of spirit is seen in his gratitude toward those who shaped his character. He devotes an entire section of Meditations to acknowledging those who influenced him. His grandfather's kindness, his father's courage, his mother's devotion, and the wisdom of his teachers. Every individual in his life, he believed, had contributed to his moral growth. This ability to see goodness in others, to recognize debts of gratitude where many would see only obligations, speaks to the nobility of his character. His reflections remain not only an intellectual exercise, but a testament to the daily practice of philosophy in the life of an emperor burdened with the weight of an empire.
Marcus Aurelius embodied virtues that resonate with the highest moral ideals, yet he did so without the spiritual assurance that defines Christian faith. He pondered the existence of a divine order, reasoning that either a guiding providence governed the universe or that life was ruled by chance, in which case human wisdom could still provide meaning. He accepted the notion of a universal nature overseeing existence, but his role within this vast design seemed so minor that he anticipated no personal fulfillment beyond the tranquility attainable in this life. His hopes for peace were grounded in earthly existence, not in an afterlife or liberation from physical form. For Marcus, worldly ambitions and material wealth were mere vanities. While he acknowledged that the gods might watch over him, he believed their primary concern was the cosmos itself. His gods were more benevolent than the indifferent deities of Stoicism, yet his personal sense of divine connection remained faint. He spoke little of the afterlife, often referring to death as a natural conclusion. It is likely that he believed his soul would eventually merge with the universal spirit, in line with his understanding that nothing truly vanishes but merely changes form. His demeanor reflected a weary resolve, fulfilling his duties with the discipline of a soldier awaiting the final call, but without the optimistic anticipation that sustained Socrates, who looked forward to reuniting with revered spirits in the hereafter. Despite his philosophical stance that consciousness would end after death, Marcus Aurelius occasionally grappled with the insufficiency of this belief. At times, he seemed to yearn for a deeper purpose beyond mortal life. He wrote metaphorically of a journey's end, suggesting the possibility of encountering divine beings beyond this world. This glimmer of hope hints at an inner struggle against the void left by his rationalist creed. His reflections on change and renewal evoke natural cycles of life and death, subtly implying a transformative process akin to rebirth. Such musings echo themes found in early Christian thought, yet Marcus Aurelius, paradoxically one of the most morally upright emperors, had little sympathy for Christians, viewing them as stubborn dissenters. Though his Meditations do not offer profound philosophical arguments, they reveal Marcus's remarkable sincerity and insight into human nature. Unlike many ancient religions focused on ritualistic appeasement, his moral philosophy emphasized inner virtue. He understood that a person's actions inevitably reflect their thoughts and beliefs. By cultivating virtuous habits of mind, he aimed to ensure righteous actions even under pressure. His ethical discipline was proactive, emphasizing mental preparation to face life's challenges. His perspective on happiness was equally profound. He rejected the idea that joy could be found in mere pleasure, noting that even the most wicked people often indulged in pleasures. True contentment, he argued, arose from virtuous character, noble intentions, and righteous deeds. This insight was particularly remarkable given his access to the greatest luxuries of his time, which he regarded as hollow compared to the fulfillment of a virtuous life. Despite his longing for peace and simplicity, Marcus Aurelius bore the heavy burden of leading the Roman Empire during a period of great turmoil. He personally commanded his armies against threats from both the east and the north. Even amidst the harsh realities of military life, he found solace in philosophical contemplation, writing the first book of his Meditations while encamped among his soldiers. The grandeur and power of the Roman throne were to him merely duties to be fulfilled with diligence and integrity. His campaigns were grueling but effective, and his strategic foresight delayed the empire's decline by centuries. Yet his vision of extending Rome's borders remained unfulfilled, as his death cut short his ambitions. Marcus Aurelius's life exemplifies the triumph of the mind over circumstance. A gentle philosopher forced into the role of warrior emperor, a ruler who yearned for quiet domestic happiness, yet faced relentless public duty, his existence was defined by paradox. He endured personal heartbreak as his children either died young or betrayed his legacy. Even his death was marked by duty, occurring in a military encampment on the frontier. His story is one of profound moral integrity and philosophical depth. His writings continue to inspire, reflecting his unyielding commitment to virtue, wisdom, and duty. Though his philosophical outlook lacked the comforting promise of immortality, his courage in the face of life's trials remains timeless.
From my grandfather Verus, I learned the importance of gentleness and self-restraint, mastering the art of temperance and avoiding anger. The memory of my father instilled in me a deep sense of dignity and integrity, shaping my understanding of what it means to carry oneself with honor. My mother taught me reverence for the divine, generosity toward others, and the discipline to abstain not only from wrongdoing, but from even the thought of it. She showed me the value of a simple life, untouched by indulgence, despite the temptations that come with wealth. From my great-grandfather, I learned the significance of education, both in seeking knowledge through public teachings and investing in private instruction. He taught me that acquiring wisdom is worth any expense. The guardian who raised me instilled in me the discipline to remain independent of the distractions that consume so many, the rivalries of the chariot races, the passions of the amphitheater. He taught me endurance, self-sufficiency, and the ability to focus on what truly matters, rather than becoming ensnared in trivial disputes. Diognetus showed me how to avoid superstition and empty beliefs. He trained me to be skeptical of those who claim to perform miracles, those who exploit ignorance for their own gain. He guided me away from trivial pastimes and instead encouraged a pursuit of philosophy. Because of him, I first encountered the teachings of great thinkers, developed a love for discussion, and adopted the habits of a philosopher, embracing a simple way of living that aligned with intellectual discipline. Rusticus was instrumental in making me realize that my character needed refinement. He deterred me from chasing the empty prestige sought by those who use philosophy for display rather than substance. He taught me to resist the temptation to show off my knowledge, to avoid superficial eloquence, and to pursue wisdom for its own sake. He encouraged me to write plainly, without pretension, and to cultivate a mindset that prioritized sincerity over appearances. He showed me how to seek reconciliation with those who wronged me, to read with diligence, and to approach knowledge with depth rather than accepting things at face value. Most importantly, it was through him that I was introduced to the teachings of Epictetus, a gift that profoundly shaped my understanding of virtue. Apollonius demonstrated what true freedom looks like, an unwavering commitment to reason and justice, no matter the circumstances. He remained composed through pain, grief, and illness, always embodying the same steadfast nature. From him, I learned that it is possible to be both intense in conviction and gentle in demeanor. He never allowed the limitations of his students to frustrate him, nor did he let his vast knowledge make him prideful. He lived as a testament to the idea that wisdom is not meant to be hoarded, but shared with patience and humility.
Reflections on influence and character formation. From my grandfather, Verus, I learned the virtues of gentleness and patience, mastering the art of restraining anger and impulsive reactions. The memory of my father instilled in me a sense of dignity and integrity, shaping my behavior to reflect honor and courage. My mother exemplified generosity and piety, teaching me not only to avoid wrongdoing, but even the thought of it. Her example of moderation encouraged me to live simply, resisting the temptations of excess, despite the privileges of wealth. My great-grandfather's commitment to education inspired me to value learning, both in public discourse and through private instruction, regardless of the cost. To guidance from a mentor. From my guardian, I learned to remain impartial, avoiding the fanaticism common among supporters of the chariot teams in the circus or the gladiator factions in the arena. He taught me the virtues of endurance and self-sufficiency, encouraging me to perform my duties personally rather than delegating unnecessarily. He also emphasized simplicity in life, cautioning against becoming entangled in too many affairs or giving ear to slander and gossip. 3. Wisdom from Diognetus. Diognetus showed me the value of intellectual clarity. He taught me not to waste time on trivial pursuits or be easily swayed by popular superstitions, such as those propagated by magicians or miracle workers. From him, I learned to avoid distractions, including the idle games of gambling, and to respect others' freedom of speech. He also guided me toward philosophy, introducing me to influential thinkers like Bacchius, Tandasis, and Marcianus. Under his influence, I embraced the philosophical lifestyle, adopting its simplicity in both thought and living. Insights from Rusticus. Rusticus was instrumental in helping me realize the need for self-improvement. He steered me away from the superficial ambitions of sophists who sought fame through eloquent speeches or literary accomplishments. From him, I learned to avoid vanity and physical prowess and rhetorical flair, instead focusing on sincerity and substance. He taught me to write simply and truthfully, as demonstrated in his own letters, and to reconcile with others swiftly and graciously. His encouragement led me to delve deeply into philosophical texts, especially the writings of Epictetus, which profoundly shaped my worldview. The philosophy from Apollonius. Apollonius embodied true freedom and unwavering consistency, teaching me to prioritize reason and justice above all else. He demonstrated resilience, maintaining composure even in the face of pain, loss, or illness. Apollonius showed that one could be both passionate and composed, exercising patience with students who struggled to understand his teachings. He was a living example of humility, valuing wisdom itself more than his talent for conveying it. From him, I learned how to receive kindness without feeling indebted and to express gratitude sincerely without compromising my integrity. Reflections on virtue and legacy. These influences shaped my character, each mentor contributing uniquely to my development. By observing and emulating their virtues, I learned that true happiness is rooted in inner strength, moral consistency, and the pursuit of wisdom. Their teachings remind me that greatness is not in power or wealth, but in the integrity of one's soul and the courage to live justly. Through their examples, I strive to cultivate these virtues daily, hoping to reflect their wisdom in my actions and choices. Wisdom from Sextus. Sextus taught me to lead with gentleness and to nurture my household with sincere affection, like a father guiding his children. He showed how to live in harmony with nature while maintaining quiet dignity, free of pretense. Through his example, I learned to understand the unique dispositions of my friends and to be patient with those swayed by popular beliefs or ignorance. Instead of arguing, he demonstrated how to engage gracefully, adapting to different personalities without sacrificing his principles. His respect was earned effortlessly, grounded in authenticity and warmth, not flattery. Sextus was remarkably clear-minded and organized in his thinking, offering practical wisdom for virtuous living. His calm demeanor revealed his mastery of emotional discipline, yet he balanced his stoic composure with deep compassion and kindness. Quietly influential, he was admired without ever seeking recognition or praise. Tact from Alexander the Grammarian. Alexander the Grammarian showed me how to correct others with subtlety and respect. Rather than bluntly pointing out mistakes in speech or grammar, he would gently model the correct form within the flow of conversation. This indirect approach allowed others to learn without embarrassment or feeling criticized. From him, I learned the value of patience and the art of guiding others with encouragement instead of rebuke. Realism from Fronto taught me about the challenges of power. He revealed how rulers are often targets of envy, deceit, and hypocrisy, and how those born into privilege can struggle with genuine human connection. His insights made me cautious of flattery and reminded me to stay grounded, regardless of my status. Fronto also helped me understand the emotional burden of leadership, encouraging me to approach authority with humility and mindfulness. IX. Accountability from Alexander the Platonic. Alexander the Platonic taught me the importance of being present and available to others. He showed me not to use busyness as an excuse to neglect my responsibilities to friends and family. By his example, I learned to balance personal tasks with meaningful relationships, ensuring that duty never became a reason for neglect. Generosity from Catullus. Catullus demonstrated the power of empathy, especially when facing criticism, even if it was unjust. Instead of reacting defensively, he showed how to reconcile and restore harmony. He emphasized speaking kindly of mentors and expressing genuine affection for one's children. His example illustrated how sincere praise strengthens bonds and how kind words can uplift others, fostering goodwill and trust. Integrity from Severus. My brother Severus was a shining example of loyalty and compassion, especially within the family. Through him, I learned about great figures like Heldrasa, Helvidius, Cato, Dio, and Brutus, whose commitment to justice and equality inspired my vision of leadership. He encouraged me to imagine a society founded on fairness and a style of governance dedicated to the people's well-being. Severus also nurtured my love for philosophy, urging me to pursue wisdom with unwavering dedication. His generosity knew no bounds, and he always believed in the goodness of others, trusting them with an open heart. His honesty was evident in his straightforwardness, ensuring his intentions were always clear and building an atmosphere of trust and transparency. Composure from Claudius Maximus. Claudius Maximus was the embodiment of self-control, maintaining his composure through all of life's trials, from sudden crises to prolonged difficulties. He taught me to face challenges with courage and optimism, practicing mildness, moderation, and dignity in every action. Maximus was steadfast in his principles, and his words were trusted because they consistently aligned with his deeds. He showed me how to navigate urgency and patience with balanced calmness, handling obstacles efficiently and without unnecessary haste. He was never ruled by emotions, demonstrating remarkable restraint and forgiveness, leading with integrity and compassion. Maximus also knew how to balance humor with grace, remaining dignified while being approachable and kind. The fate resilience from my father. From my father, I learned humility, consistency, and integrity. His decisions were always thoughtful and just, reflecting a deep commitment to truth and fairness. Despite his position of influence, he was free from vanity, never flaunting his status or authority. His dedication to his work was unmatched, as was his willingness to listen to others, always valuing contributions that served the greater good. He had the wisdom to balance firmness with leniency, always guided by what was best for all. He lived simply, detached from material excess, and valued loyalty and friendship without dependency or possessiveness. He accepted criticism with grace, never reacting defensively, and continued on his path with quiet confidence. He neither sought public praise nor feared disapproval, staying true to his principles. My father embraced tradition naturally, without seeking acknowledgement for his respect for ancestral customs. He found joy in life's simple pleasures, never boastful of his privileges nor resentful when they were absent. From his example, I learned to appreciate life's blessings without attachment and to navigate authority with humility and responsibility. Legacy of virtue and wisdom. Reflecting on these teachings, I am deeply grateful for the wisdom each of these mentors shared. They shaped my understanding of leadership, virtue, and humanity. Their lives taught me that true strength is rooted in character, not power, that wisdom is demonstrated through actions, not words, and that the greatest legacy is a life lived with purpose and integrity. Their lessons guide me each day, challenging me to embody their virtues. Through them, I strive to cultivate patience, humility, and justice, aspiring to live in harmony with the principles they so beautifully exemplified.
He kept few secrets, and those he did were solely related to matters of governance, never out of self-interest or deception. His approach to public entertainment, architecture, and distributions of wealth was guided not by a desire for recognition, but by a sense of duty to the people, treating them as individuals rather than instruments of his own legacy. He never indulged in excessive luxury, avoided ostentatious displays, and refrained from extravagant personal projects. His habits were simple. He never bathed at odd hours, never obsessed over his meals, nor fixated on the quality or color of his garments. In all things, he remained composed, never driven by recklessness or impatience. No task seemed to overwhelm him. He pursued everything with method and ease, embodying a sense of balance and order in all his actions. It could be said of him, as it was of Socrates, that he understood both deprivation and abundance, yet remained unmoved by either. While most men falter in hardship and become reckless in prosperity, he maintained an unshaken discipline, showing a strength of character unbent by circumstance. This fortitude was most evident in times of sickness and misfortune, when his endurance proved unyielding. 14. From the gods I received the fortune of honorable ancestors, virtuous parents, a devoted sister, wise mentors, and loyal companions. I was never led by impulse into irreparable mistakes, though my nature made such missteps possible. Divine providence shielded me from circumstances that might have driven me to regret. I was spared an upbringing under my father's concubine, preserved the innocence of my youth, and did not prematurely assume the airs of manhood, delaying such pretensions even beyond necessity. Under my father's guidance, I was freed from pride and vanity, learning that a ruler need not be surrounded by guards, adorned in finery, or defined by symbols of grandeur. He taught me that true authority does not require embellishment, and a man can live simply without losing strength or command. I was blessed with a brother whose example inspired me, whose respect uplifted me. My children were born strong and whole, free of deformities, and I did not become overly engrossed in rhetoric or poetry, avoiding pursuits that might have distracted me from a greater path. I had the foresight to recognize and reward those who raised me, granting them positions they desired without making them wait in vain. I was fortunate to encounter minds like Apollonius, Rusticus, and Maximus, men who deepened my understanding of life. The gods granted me moments of reflection to contemplate the meaning of living in harmony with nature. They provided every necessary sign, every insight I could have heeded earlier, making it clear that if I had failed to embrace this life sooner, the fault was mine alone. Yet they also granted me the strength to persist, to keep my body resilient through years of disciplined living. I was spared the entanglements of certain affections, and even when I felt love's pull, I was soon freed from its hold. Despite moments of frustration with Rusticus, I never acted against him in ways I would later regret. Though my mother died young, she lived long enough to share my later years. Whenever I sought to aid those in need, I was never told that funds were unavailable, and I myself never had to depend on others for such aid. I was granted a wife of great loyalty, kindness, and wisdom. I had the privilege of selecting worthy men to educate my children. In dreams, I received guidance, not just for personal matters, but even for my health, such as ways to prevent the loss of blood and overcome dizziness. Such signs, much like the revelation given to Croesus by the sea, affirmed that the gods watched over me. When I first embraced philosophy, I was fortunate not to be drawn into the vanity of sophistry, nor lost in the endless riddles of dialectics and fallacies. I did not squander my years on frivolous speculation about the heavens or natural curiosities. All these blessings I owe to the favor of the gods and the course of fate. In the land of the Quadi at Granua, I reflected upon this truth. Each day I will encounter men who are idle, deceitful, ungrateful, bitter, deceitful, and envious. They are not this way by choice, but by ignorance of true good and true evil. Yet I, who have come to understand what is virtuous and what is base, must not let their failings unsettle me. For no man has the power to force me into wrongdoing. We are bound by reason, by the divine essence within us all, and I must not resent those who have lost their way. Just as the limbs of a body must work together, the hands, the feet, the eyelids, and the teeth in their opposing rows, so too must we as human beings cooperate. To act in opposition, to harbor resentment, is to rebel against nature itself. What am I? Flesh, breath, and reason. My body is but a fragile construct of blood, bone, and sinew, no more significant than the weaving of fibers. My breath is nothing more than a passing wind, drawn in and released moment by moment. But my mind, my ruling faculty, this must not be enslaved to fear, to lust, to fleeting desires. I am old. I cannot allow this final part of me, my most essential self, to be diminished by reckless impulses or dragged about by fear of the future. Let me not grieve over the past, nor dread what is to come, but remain steadfast in the present, guided by reason alone. Sept. All that comes directly from the gods is an expression of their wisdom. Even what we call chance or misfortune is intertwined with the fabric of nature, bound to the intricate order of the cosmos. Everything flows from this unity, and all that occurs serves the greater whole, of which I am but one part. If the whole must change to endure, then so too must every part within it. Let this understanding be my guide, my foundation. Let me not chase endlessly after books, losing myself in distractions, but instead face the end with calm gratitude. When my time comes, let me depart not in bitterness, but with a heart that is peaceful, humble, and thankful to the gods.